Welcome to yet another episode of Third and Short. You know what I mean? We about to talk sports in that barbershop style that we do. You dig what I'm saying? But of course, before we get into it, I got my guy, Jason DJ Plummer in the building.
You already know what it do, my guy. It's the first of the month.
Wake up.
You know. Anyway, all good on this side, man. A lovely week. Like I said, it's the first of the month. Getting ready to get back into it. Got a lot of exciting things going on in the month of my personal life, bunch of concerts and stuff like that. So I'm definitely excited about that. And I'm also excited for everything we about to get into in this sports take because it's a hot one on this one. How about yourself, my brother?
I mean, you know what? Like, it is the first of the month, but the beginning of July spells the end of the NBA, right? I mean, football's already a rappy rap. So, like, this is a time of year, man, for the sports fans. I feel like, I mean, unless you're really into some of these other sports, you're going to be more in the summer or at least be outside. So maybe I'm getting myself ready early to be outside for the summer when it comes to my sports. But other than that, man, like you said, man, we're at the top of the month. You dig what I'm saying? And I got to remember, don't forget, y'all, to like, subscribe, follow it, all that good stuff. I almost forgot. I'm so, already mourning the NBA in my head that I forgot to tell the people to like, subscribe, and follow. And of course, we got the merch, y'all. You dig what I'm saying? We got the merch. We'll have some exciting new merch coming soon. So check out the blcstore.com. You already know what it is, man. But listen, man, let's just get into it. Was it last night? Right, the Pacers
last night had it all
in 6. At this point, I barely recall my picks going into this particular series, but I know you probably did not forget your pick. So how you feeling now that the Pacers are on their way to the finals by beating the New York Knickerbockers?
So see, I really was going to get all gleeful and excited and just talk my smack. And then I said to myself, what kind of person does that when you normally write anyway? That's just something that you go ahead and do anyway. So I'm going to just go ahead and take my victory lap. And, right here with my man Spike. Take my victory lap because I did call Pacers in 6. And I think just to help you out a little bit, I believe you said Knicks in 6. So great call on that one. But better learn to start listening to your boy right there because I'm telling you, I know what I be talking about when it comes to this basketball. I didn't get the fantasy basketball championship by accident this year either. But hey, I mean, how do you feel about it based on our predictions?
I don't know, man. This particular series was interesting because, like, the first game was crazy. The Knicks had it in the bag for the most part. Epic collapse. And then game 2 happens or whatever. It was nip and tuck for the most part. So it was, I don't know. I feel like this series could have gone either way, if we're being honest. Like, I very well could have been on the other side talking about Knicks won it in 6, but that's not what happened. Ultimately, I don't know. I think we have to look at what do you think was the biggest impetus in terms of the Pacers winning? Because, I mean, going into it, I'll be honest with you. For me, I'm a fan. I think I represent probably about 60% of NBA fans, meaning that we don't necessarily have like a team, a dog in the race. It's not like we're diehard specifically for our particular team, right? Because maybe our team's not in it or whatever. So for me, I follow the storylines. I follow where I feel like the excitement will be at. So that was really where my rooting interest was. I don't think I've ever really rooted necessarily for the Knicks. It was a good story. But, now that it's over, it's like, oh, okay, so now we got the Pacers. But at the end of the day, I can't take anything away from them. I think they played a hell of a series for the most part. Tyrese, had a chip on his shoulder. A lot of guys stepped up at different points in the series, but I can't help but feel like New York kind of let this one get away from them. They had home court advantage. They had game 1 in hand. And so I just kind of feel like it is what it is. But that's kind of what leaves me with disappointment because, like I said, I have no dog in the fight. But at the same time, it's like I'm not a player. I'm not a coach. I'm not a GM. It goes back to what I was saying before. It's like
the vested interest. I got you.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I could just kind of be like, all right, so I was wrong, cool, but I was right a lot. You know what I'm saying? Up to this point. So, I mean, you got to take your L. Yeah, I mean, I'm a whole lot like New York did. And it is what it is. But I feel like, but you can't tell me you feel like the Pacers was that much better than the Knicks, though. I don't know that I really believe that, to be honest.
No. To your point, I do think this was an evenly matched series as far as like talent-wise back and forward. I don't think the Pacers were that much better than the Knicks. I just thought they were a better run team with the amount of players and stuff they had. Now, I think to look back on it, had Tibbs maybe made some adjustments prior to this series like he did in series, that could have helped as far as like getting Cat more rest, getting Jalen Brunson more rest, or finding ways to get points while he had either one of them off the floor, and getting that bench production could have went a long way to doing that. But once 1 and 2 got lost, especially the way they lost game 1.
Yeah.
After that, I think there was more of a dog fight mentality as opposed to a dog take mentality. And for me, I think then they just didn't have the guns and the horses to outman a Indiana team that was really deep, really well coached, and they ran their own offense. They ran up and down the floor the way they wanted to. They pushed the pace they wanted to, and they were able to get mismatches on defense. Unfortunately, on the 2 All-Pros, all NBAs on the other side in Cat and Jalen Brunson. So I think ultimately that's where those tweaks will have to come for New York in the future. I was not one of those, oh man, we got to tear it down or we need to get somebody else. This was the best that Cat had played. And if you're asking who won that trade between them and then Minnesota Timberwolves with Julius Randle, to me, it was clearly Cat that was the better pickup, especially the way he performed down the stretch in this series.
Yeah, I mean, listen, one thing I love about what New York has done is at least establishes itself as credible. Because for a long time under Dolan, under some of the bad choices that was made by the front office, New York wasn't really credible. So at the very least, I feel like they still won. This was a good season for them. But if we're being honest in terms of taking that next steps, I feel like Tibbs got to go. You dig what I'm saying? There's a reason probably why I don't think he's a championship coach. I think he's the type of coach that can get you there in terms of being credible and being respectable. Maybe he's like a defensive coordinator, if you will, right? But I just don't think he's that guy in terms of being the primary coach. So I can certainly see some changes in the front office, in the coaching when it comes to the type of coach that you need to really get the best out of this team. I don't know, it's just so much in terms of his execution. I just kind of feel like it's Tibbs. Right? Like, yeah, he's going to push you hard. But even like his calling card, which is what, defense? I don't know that I really saw that kind of standing out here. Right? So if I can't even get you guys to lock down on that side of the basketball, then what the fuck are you really doing for real? Especially if you can't get us over the edge on the other side of the ball. So I feel like that might be one change that might be time, because New York is not far. The East is wide open. I don't think they're that far off from the Pacers. They gave a valiant effort for the most part, made it respectable. But you're right. That first game, though, I just wonder how much of that, because you got to remember they just came off of beating the champs, right? Even though it's kind of an up and down because you're beating them fair and square. Then he gets hurt, right? Then you kind of like, now you get past them and you feel like, okay, I got a real shot. You come out in game 1 doing your thug thizzle, and then it's hard to overcome that epic collapse from them. But I also feel that's where coaching kind of too comes into play as well.
Do you think New York took Indiana too lightly to start?
Nah, I just think they were probably ill-prepared. You're right. Rick Carlisle's a much better coach. They had a lot of other players who were able to contribute. They felt like the deeper team for the most part. I really do think the difference here was coaching. Not that I was saying that Tibbs did a bad job necessarily, but I just think he didn't rise to the challenge here against a better coach and against a team that was probably neck and neck with them in terms of talent. So, right? But speaking of a team that wasn't neck and neck, right? At least not in terms of the outcome, because on the other side, the Western Conference, I mean, oh my God, right? Yet another series that I have egg on my face, right? Which is fine because, hey, I'm a casual fan and we're going to do that sometimes. But apparently OKC was the far better team. I mean, aside from what their record said in the regular season, but apparently also in the postseason against the Wolves. I mean, it was a gentleman. I mean, it was gentlemanly, you know what I mean? The way that OKC rode over Minnesota. I mean, there were so many people having conversations about Anthony Edwards' moment, Ant-Man, the opportunity that was ahead of him. I know I picked him in 6. I think you initially picked him in 7, although you saw the signs clearly. The writing was on the wall. So a lot of people got egg on their face. I think not even so much because Minnesota lost, but because of how they lost and what that meant for OKC. And not only today, but apparently tomorrow, because they're having all these conversations. So what are your thoughts about how OKC rolled through Minnesota, having picked them to pick them initially to win in 7 games?
So you remember last time when we spoke about this, I switched and I said, I got to jump off the bandwagon. And I remember a conversation I had with you off the record when I hit you up and I was like, I think it was the first game and the second game it was the last game of the, whatchamacallit series against Denver and the first game they had against Minnesota. And I said to you offline, if they play this kind of defense going forward, there is no team that can beat them. And that team showed up. But let's switch to the first side. Let's talk a little bit more about the Ant side of this, because for me, I'm disappointed. I'm thoroughly disappointed. And I say that in the sense of, not only did I not get the box office guy that's supposed to be the superstar box office guy, I got the guy that gave me, it didn't mean that much. I ain't hurting that bad. I'll be all right. And I think that rubbed me as an old school fan just a little bit the wrong way. Now I get it. He is young. He is 23. He is able to have a future. You know, he can get back to this point multiple times. I mean, if you look at the track record, there's nothing that says he was supposed to be there this year in the first place. When you turn around and look at a person like Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, who took 7 years, straight years, getting the conference finals before they were able to actually get over that hump. So I get the road to perdition, as they say, to get to the prosperity land. But what bothers me is just the fact that I felt like there wasn't that spark there from him that gave me that, that fire. He gave it to me in one game. And I was like, well, where's that dog? Even in a loss, I feel like that dog wasn't there. And I get making the right play, the basketball play. You know me. I'm always about the right play, the smart play. I look at what's going to win the game. And I just didn't see that fire from him when it came to what I needed to see on the court to combat what they were throwing at him. And then he got absolutely no help from anybody else. I don't know who else on the team decided not to show up. They clearly were not into this series. Where's no Naz Reid? Where's what's his name? Randall? Again, I brought this up earlier about the trade for him. Horrible showing for him. And I don't know. I can see growth. They need a new point guard. Mike Conley ain't it. But I don't know. I'm taken a little back by it. What were your thoughts about how he performed and the way he came across?
Now, listen, okay, we got to remember, I was team Ant-Man. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I was putting a lot on the young man because, like I said before, he had an opportunity in front of him, right? I said last week that, it's not like he was facing the older guy who had been down there that road before and he had to unseat him. So his road was different. He had an opportunity in front of him and he didn't capitalize on that opportunity. I do agree with you in terms of being disappointed. I don't read so much into like his response and stuff like that because I do think that speaks to his immaturity. I did say that if he can keep his dick in his pants and other things, right, that maybe he could be the face of the league. But sometimes immaturity, it shows up in those ways, right, in relationships or just being reckless or not being responsible or not stepping up to the right moment and doing the right thing, right? So I do get that was a part of his story anyway. Right. So I got to accept it. Now, what I'm not going to do is totally berate the young man because he is still young. And I do think a lot is thrusted onto young people. And to be honest with you, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, but when you said something something what you said about what he said reminded me of the LeBron effect. Right. And I'm going to talk a little bit later about that effect when it comes to some of these guys. But some guys are Kobe guys, who treat the game a certain type of way, and some guys are not. Right. They're maybe on the other side of things. So, and he said he didn't want to be the face of the league. I think the problem for me, was that we were trying to thrust him into a situation without, for me, not looking at the technicals. You get what I'm saying? Like I was wanting to believe that he had enough of that chutzpah, that thing that could elevate him against a great team like OKC. And what we learned was he's not ready for that. You know what I'm saying? And so as fans, we got to be careful about what we put on some of these players because they're telling us and they're showing us. And so it's like, all right, cool. And I'm going to let you develop on your own time. I can't put this on you. I can't want it more for you than you want it for yourself to a certain extent, right? Especially a young man who seems to be indulging in life's excesses at the same time. So hopefully that grows. But I think that speaks to the larger issue. So as far as Minnesota, I mean, last year they got done in 5 games too, right? When they got to this stage, they got done in 5 games by Dallas. Right, Dallas ended up losing to the Boston Celtics. So I don't know what it says. I think the other thing that's kind of confusing too is that, yes, OKC went 7 games against Denver, so they could have been had, right? I mean, yes, but okay, I get that the champions, you got Jokic, but I don't know. I'm really disappointed because I thought it was going to be a little bit more fight in this series. It's not so much who won. I don't really care, but I mean, I kind of wanted to see a good storyline. But honestly, like you, I was very disappointed, not only just in Ant-Man, but just in terms of the entire Wolves, right? Randall played great against the Golden State Warriors, right? I mean, he balled out, he did certain things. So every different player had their different moments. I don't know if I can kind of judge that trade just based off of how they showed up in some of these games. But to your point, though, OKC has been killing people on the defensive end. They're basically running guys in and out. They're almost like a college team that has NBA players. Somehow I think OKC might have figured out a way, because of the youth and because you don't have stars necessarily, because it's a small market team, to be able to run like a kind of college system when you got really 5 guys coming in, 5 guys coming out, interchangeable. And that is something that you don't typically see in the NBA. So maybe that's their special sauce. But typically we've seen one guy be able to literally elevate his team beyond the Jordan rules, for example, and be able to do it. Just Ant-Man was not ready for that moment. And so it is what it is.
Well, to your point, Shea was. Shea is exactly who we were just talking about. And to your point about the construction of the OKC team, when you have a team that everybody understands their role, their position, and their job. I mean, it's like the ultimate Bill Belichick thing. You know what it is? Know your role and do your job. That's the whole thing about them. They understand they got a 30-point scorer who can get buckets at any point he wants. So and plus he's getting to the free throw line. So we're not worried about scoring. Lou Dort, Caruso, Cason Wallace, all of these guys are known as Jalen Williams, defensive guys. Put me on a man, I got him. Don't worry about it. Let's go. And they let their defense speak for them. Chet on the other side blocking shots. I mean, a lot of people give him flack for being a little slim and thinking that he may not be able to bang with some of the big boys, but at this point, he may be the biggest boy left in the league. I mean, as far as
absolutely
being on the court, right? But looking at just the way they run their system, their game, their whole thing is predicated on their defense and being able to suffocate you, not only just on man, but into your point, in waves. And I think this is a newer trend because we're getting away from all of being able to have that bigger three, I guess what you call a superstar, that 3-headed monster that the teams used to, the super teams as we used to call them, I guess, or would call them now. Being able to take 3 young players, and I know Shea's 26, but that's still obviously young in the NBA, but being able to take 3 young players and get the core to understand everybody's role, everybody's job, and to buy in and continue to just work at it. This is not necessarily a surprise when I look back over the numbers and what they've done over in the past to get to where they are, but it is shocking just how efficiently good this team really is. I paid attention when they won 68 games in the regular season, but a lot of times people tend to use the regular season as a wash. Do you know that if this team continues on this trend, there will be only 4 teams in NBA history that have won more games total than them? 2 of those teams include the 95-96 and 96-97 Bulls, the 1974 Lakers, and I think like 1972 Philadelphia. So they're in some rare company if they can keep this up with that core of Shea, Jalen, and Chet.
See, but that's why I don't like those stats for a lot of different reasons, right? So for example, right, yes, they beat the Wolves, so we see them as like, oh my God, they world beaters. But they went 7 games with Denver, which was 1 year removed from the championship anyway, even after losing their head coach a few days before the end of the season, right? Meaning that I kind of feel like I get it, because a lot of teams can say, hey, this team played amazing defense. So did Detroit. That 1 year that Detroit won the championship with a bunch of players who didn't have the superstar vibes, yeah, they were able to do that 1 year, 1,000%. What I'm saying is that I still believe, and maybe this is just the old school in me, I get that we want to kind of elevate OKC, oh my God, it's going to be a team in the future, et cetera. Look how great they are. They got all these players coming in. But what I know sometimes about the playoffs is that when you're challenged, all that shit that was working before, sometimes it doesn't work. Right? Like, had they faced maybe a better Denver team, had they faced maybe, I think, even a Golden State team, right? A team that has a little bit more guile, because the experience of going through the moments, I think it's not just X's and O's. Like, it's about the moments too. I don't know that I've seen OKC really challenged, except for Denver. And when they still luckily had the 7th game at home, right? So I'm saying there's somewhere in between, to me, closer to that Denver series. They just didn't necessarily face any great teams, which we'll talk about this later on in just regards to the state of the NBA. So it was wide open for them. They did what the fuck they were supposed to do. And based off the people they faced after Denver for sure, right, including Denver, right, especially Game 7, they did what they had to do. I'm not knocking that. Now, whether or not this translates into the future, I don't know, because I think a great player or two can change the game. And I just didn't see Ant-Man be a great player, right? I didn't see them face outside of Jokic. We saw what he did with Jokic, and you even said, "Oh my God, he's tired." You know, different. What's your boy then got hurt before the last game. So for me, it's like, all right, yeah, they it. But I think if they face different competition, the way that they're showing up will not be the same. And I discount the regular season because I think a lot of people discount the regular season. From number 2 through like number 10, I think it was, those teams were separated by like a game or two. So that told me that, yes, I get that they were head and shoulders above the rest of the West when it came to their record, but I don't know that.
But that's against the league, period. They were the best team in the league, period, hands down, not even close.
I feel you, but I think that again speaks to just the state of the league more so than it does to OKC's like historical greatness. That's just me. I think it speaks more to where the league is right now than it does to their overall greatness.
Okay, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
When in '96, when the Bulls went 72-10, was there a question about that team?
No.
Not at all, right?
Yeah, 72-10. 96, right? After they won 3 championships?
This is the second of the three-peat.
With Michael Jordan.
First year. Yeah.
And Scottie Pippen. Okay, gotcha. Okay, I want you. Yeah.
What I'm saying is, we saw 72-10. What did we say? There's no way they're not winning a championship, right?
Right? They were great. They won championships before.
Now, what I'm saying is, then you go to the Warriors team, went 72, what is it, 70, 71 and something?
73-9.
73-9. Weren't they expected to win the championship?
Yeah.
It wasn't a question, right?
Yeah.
All I'm saying is, based on this season, what we're seeing from this team, there's no difference than what I'm seeing in those teams. I don't see anybody that's enough of there was nobody that was going to compete against Jordan in the 90s. Unfortunately for Steph, there was somebody that could compete on the other side. But again, we know how that turned out. That was the whole Draymond Green series.
That's cap. If they would have faced Boston, you wouldn't have automatically picked them.
Based on the way they've played this year?
Come on, bro. Boston being the defending champs, right? Nope. They got the clear path. Once Boston was out of the way, I think most people, based off of their records, like, yeah, they're going to go ahead and make a move. Okay, cool. I get that. But what I'm saying is, historically, I still feel like Boston could have had them. Most people would have probably picked Boston still because they had the championship medal. I think Boston would
have been a better series, but I didn't see, to your point, based on some of the stuff that you said, Boston didn't show me anything to be that dominant, which also then leaned itself to when you seen that in the New York series.
You can't say that because that fits this particular argument, because Boston was still seen as a top team. They were champs. They've already been there.
Again,
so against the two of them, based on the experience, based off of the fact that from a talent perspective, their roster is loaded too. I don't think most people would be okay with Boston being the favorite in that matchup. Right?
Yeah, I'm fine with most people's thoughts, but I didn't.
What I'm saying is that because Boston is no longer in there, yes, the path is clear. But the point is that I'm making is that I think in some years, sometimes the path is clear for you to win a championship. Nobody's knocking that. But what I'm pushing back on is this idea about how great I think OKC really is. I'm saying, yes, they had a good regular season, but that doesn't speak to how great they are to me, that they were fortunate in this particular playoffs. I think we'll see in years to come when people start having conversations about putting them on the 73 Golden State championship level. Golden State had already won a championship, did they not? Or no? Am I missing something? Like, they've already proven some medal by the time they won that 72.
I think they lost. Yeah, they lost.
Won. Yes,
they lost that year, but they had won the championship the year before, I believe.
Correct. And so again, these young teams haven't done that. You know what I'm saying? This is still young for them. So for me, I'm still of that old school mode of expecting to see it And this year is different because you had the opportunity for these teams who haven't had to prove it, who are getting a chance to do it. Now, when you talk about, there are 68 wins and they're going to be this dynasty, whoa, hold your horses.
Nobody
We
said
haven't
dynasty.
seen that
No,
yet.
no, don't put words in my mouth. I never said dynasty.
I didn't say you said that. I specifically was talking about me pumping the brakes in terms of how great I think this team really is. So that's why I was bringing up the whole Boston thing, because if it was this year and Boston was still healthy, people would pick them over the 68 winning record team. That didn't happen when Jordan and them won 72. That didn't happen when Golden State. That would have happened here at a team who won less games, but people would have probably still picked Boston over OKC. Now there's no Boston here. So kudos to OKC, not knocking it. To your point, I get it. But what I'm trying to adjust for is this new NBA, because it's new to me to a certain extent. I want to see if a team with really one almost superstar who can maintain a certain level of success, because even Jordan had Pippen, right? Even Steph had, Thompson and other players on his team that contributed. I don't know that I'm seeing that. So this is new, right? Good luck to them. Good luck to OKC, but I don't know, right?
Well, no,
Speaking of good luck to them.
To your point, you're seeing it. You're not seeing it from the people you're used to seeing it from. And I think that's the difference now. There are no more, to your point, there are no more, the old guard, if you will, is changing. There's no Steph. To your point, no Steph, no Tatum, no Brown, no LeBron, no Joker. Who else won a championship recently within the last, wouldn't the championships usually fall within those five guys?
Yeah.
For the last, 5-10 years?
Yeah.
Giannis, throw out the Giannis.
I mean, Giannis won one, though. I mean,
what I'm saying is, but we're just talking about who's won championships within that reign. It's basically been those guys, right? So I think what it is now we're starting to see that newer guard, that newer flavor, that newer age start to come in. They still got the two stars. They're just not the stars that are stars. I mean, because you got Tyrese Halliburton, obviously, on the Indiana side, starting to step up, show us who he is, who his game is. He's a top 10 player in the league. And you got Pascal Siakam, who is also a champion. Has a ring.
Ooh, Pascal.
What I'm saying is,
Pascal Siakam, he walked in a room with a shirt that says, I'm Pascal Siakam.
I mean, again, like I said, these are not the names you know, but whether you know them or not is irrelevant to what happens on the court. The man's got a ring. So.
It is relevant. It's not. No.
It's irrelevant to on the court. Again, you talk more about entertainment value, which I get from the fan perspective. Yeah. You're that 60%. Yeah. I'm the 40% purist that loves the game from the way it's played.
Nigga, watch that shit at the Rutgers then.
No, nigga, you
watch that.
I'm watching the NBA.
The game of basketball can be played everywhere.
All I'm telling you is you just gonna have to get used to this new NBA. I know you don't necessarily like it because you don't know it. Whatever, what I'm telling you is, whether you like it or not, it's changing.
It got nothing to do with not knowing it. I think that's where you're wrong, my brother. I think I know it way more than you think I know it, and more.
I didn't say that you don't know it. I'm saying you're not understanding how much the landscape is changing and giving to the new guard.
I don't understand what you're saying about, because we have a segment on the show. We're going to get to it in regards to landscape changing. I say I could probably detail how it's changing, why it's changing, and why it's a problem in changing. I even called out how LeBron is part of a problem. So it's not about understanding the change. I'm just telling you that I'm witnessing it, right? And I'm out detailing the fact that this year is specifically different because within the last 5 or 6 years, you had teams like Miami and like Boston that was consistently in the running that provided some level of stability. And on the other side, you had teams that were lurking. This year, newer teams, newer proper players are popping up. But at the end of the day, it can happen on the court, but if people aren't watching or giving a fuck, or if people are talking about the viewership and all that, there are deeper implications. Right? So that's the point that I'm speaking to, right? Because that's how I watch it as a sports fan. And guess what? That's what you talk about growth. You think it's all about y'all purists who watch the games? No, it's about the casual fucking fan and how you can tell stories and get people engaged in the fucking sport, right? That's what sells. That's why baseball, for as awesome as baseball is, where the fuck is baseball going? Downward, right? Other sports, you want to compare sports, right? Why is people not all excited about baseball? We barely talk about baseball on this fucking show. Why? Because baseball loses interest for people. There's other things that people prefer to watch.
It just depends on your marketing. But it also depends on your demographic marketing things that you're into. I mean, you are the casual sports fan.
I'm talking about
for you, that doesn't really matter.
I'm talking about from a baseline, bro. So you think the NBA is excited about the Pacers versus OKC for the finals? Let's get into it. Right, you mentioned it before. There's no LeBron, there's no Steph, there's no Giannis. Right now, it's Tyrese and fucking SGA. right? So we can talk about the excitement level. Does anybody think that the Pacers really have a fucking chance? No, based off of what you're talking about. So on top of the fact that you got two teams, and I hate to do this, right? But on top of the fact you got two mid-market fucking ass teams, like most people, who gives Pacers a chance for real? So we have one team that's super dominant, to your point, that is killing everybody, gonna be killing everybody for a while, right? No real superstars, but we're hoping we're gonna make some. But we won't have a series that's gonna last longer than 5 games. So help me understand how the casual fan is supposed to be excited beyond the basketball appearance. Please help me.
Here's the thing. I can't help the casual fan if the casual fan doesn't understand the game or want to understand the game and the way it's played. If the casual fan wants to see the highlights, cool. Then watch fucking SportsCenter. Yeah. That's where you can get all the highlights. That's why they have all these extra shows that you don't have to watch the game anymore, because a lot of people don't understand the nuances of the game that goes back and forward. This is going to actually be a great fucking series for anybody who knows anything about basketball, for the simple fact of the styles make fights and understanding the two type of styles that you got. Yeah, you got a young team that can run and play hella defense, but they haven't seen a team that gets up and down the court the way Indiana does, with a point guard that's bigger than most point guards that they face. Shea's going to have to guard a different way. They're going to have to throw all their dogs out there, and they haven't seen a team that can shoot the 3-point like they can in Indiana. So this is actually going to be a brilliant X's and O's back and forward, good basketball game. But for the most part, to your point, I get why people don't want to watch the mid-market stuff, and because you're not into it doesn't have the pop and the stash. I get that. I never said it did. All I'm saying is this year, it was all about actual basketball for the most part, because that's what we were getting a good chance to see. Teams that were getting better with the X's and O's were starting to show their stuff. This isn't the first time. Again, last year, OKC lost to, I want to say, didn't they lose to Minnesota in the playoffs last year? And I believe in the second round. Meanwhile, Indiana was in the conference finals last year. They just got swept by Boston. Well, they got 4-1, a gentleman's sweep by Boston, but they were at least here. So to your point, these teams were bubbling. And yeah, some of the things fell for them to fall out the way. Do I think the NBA honestly wants that? No. Because again, for dollars and cents purposes, no, it's not the big bill. But I think if the person who's looking at the game from the casual fan can take the time back to start to just accept, oh my God, this is actually something new. This is somebody different. Let me see and figure out what this is actually about. And can it be good? Then yes, I think it can be good for the NBA. But I don't know if the casual fan is willing to give them a chance. Doesn't sound like you are.
I'm calling cap. I'm calling cap on what you're talking about, bro. First, because you say stuff like people don't know or understand the changes of the game. That's cap. That's cap.
I did. As far as
you said that,
I said people don't understand the nuances of the X's and O's of the game.
Okay, great.
Are you telling me they do?
You're
telling me the casual fan does?
I'm telling that's cap in terms of who cares, right? That's an excuse.
But I could say the same thing about the ratings. If I'm a purist, I don't care if you whether or not it's entertaining to you. If it's a great basketball game to me,
that's cap. That's cap.
How?
What I'm saying
is that cap?
Because you're not talking about you. You're ascribing why you think other people aren't into this particular series, and you're saying that the reason why is they don't understand something. It's different than if you're talking for yourself and saying the reason why I'm into it. If you're then trying to extrapolate why you think other people, I can say it's cap. Because what I'm telling you is that's not the reason why. They watch the sport even not understanding the X's and O's when other things are in play. There's sliders, a myriad of reasons why people participate in viewing a sport. And their lack of knowledge about the sport, in my humble opinion, is way on the bottom of the list in terms of why they don't watch a thing. So to say that, oh, I get why people aren't into it because they don't understand the nuances of sports. No, I'm telling you that's not it. Why? Because when Golden State played the type of game they played, guess what? People who didn't know about the sport became more interested because they played a unique style of sport, right? Just like when the triangle offense. What I'm saying is
no,
that's
cap.
What are you talking about?
The only reason people were paying attention to Steph, and that reason was because he was shooting threes well beyond anything that people had ever seen before. That was the only main reason.
Regardless of what you're talking about, people who were casual fans became interested because Golden State, after they already established winning, they were our exciting team. But part of why they were exciting, why Steph was getting open, why Draymond started getting awards, why the construction of that team, when they got the reason people became interested in that style of basketball. So what I'm saying is that sometimes even when people are ignorant to a thing, they become interested in a thing based off of that thing gaining some success and how they went about doing it and the outcome of a thing. So what I'm saying is that, yes, sometimes a casual fan can get more enlightened, not because they were interested in the X's and O's, but because the game itself, how it was played by that team, the rock star status that was them, just like what the Bulls was, for example, then yes, people get interested in how they're getting all these open threes and how they're doing stuff X, Y, and Z. What I'm saying is that the reason why this matchup isn't attractive isn't just so much that because they're in OKC and the Pacers in Indianapolis, is because they don't have the track record of being on the stage for the viewing audience enough. And part of that comes with the pain, the anguish of watching your guy. When you talk about how you felt about Ant-Man, when we saw Michael Jordan crying when he lost, we knew it meant something to him. So guess what? Next year, we're rooting for him. There is just a natural progression of people having rooting interest that is short-circuited because of how the NBA is played today, right? And the game and the business behind it. It's not just about what's on the court, because if it was just about what's on the court, other players would be greater. We would look at them differently. But because of the business, they're put on certain teams and having an opportunity. So we then try to thrust them into positions that they're not really qualified for because they don't have the charisma, because they're not in the proper market, because they haven't built the legacy or the history. That's what the fuck I'm talking about. And I understand the game enough to understand that it's just not about X's and O's. Because if it was just about X's and O's, guys who are more talented would lose. Why they lose? Because it's about what's in here too. It's also about what's in here. And when you get challenged enough and people see that and you're able to overcome, it builds folklore. And all of the greatest heroes in the NBA have done that, except for these niggas, for the most part.
Except for you're not giving them a chance to do it this year. This is their time.
Good.
You can't, unless you can tell me you know for certain in the fact of the future that neither one of these teams are going to win another championship or be great, then this could be the very year that starts the same shit that you're talking about right now.
Okay, this is a perfect conduit to the next part of the conversation, because what you think I'm doing is blaming them, bro. This is perfect, right?
You're blaming them.
Because here's the thing. It's about the state of the NBA, which gets me to the second part of this conversation, right? I'm not blaming on them, right? If you don't have nobody in front of you to beat, it is what it is. Like, you're just going to win your championship. I'm not knocking that. Even when the Lakers, for example, won that fucking championship in the bubble, I wasn't knocking their championship. I mean, yes, other teams quit. Other people went home. They stayed and they won their championship. So I'm not going to take that away from nobody. But what I can say, though, is that unfortunately there has been a letting down of the passing of the baton. Like, there's been like, what great teams have we had in the past few years other than the fucking Golden State Warriors? And we were hoping that the fucking Celtics would be that, right? We just have not had in the last maybe 10 years or so, like, players staying long enough with a team to build the type of team that Anthony Edwards would have to go against. Right? The only monicum of that the West had this year was Denver. They only won one championship, right? There was a point where players stayed long enough, built some culture, built a team, even if they weren't winning. The Pacers, the last time they were truly relevant, right? They had core players over a period of time. But guess what? Fucking Paul George went somewhere else. Guess what? We never heard of what happened to Paul Hibbert. That same team that was being cultivated around the time of the Heat was disappeared and disintegrated. So now, yes, you might have the fucking Celtics. Guess what? They're about to be done. They were almost about to be dynastic, but we're seeing about what's about to happen to him. So yes, we want to champion OKC. It may be a thing that the NBA's whole opportunity for dynasty is a rappy rap. It may be that, bro. That's the state of the NBA. So yes, maybe we're seeing the transition, but I think the implications of it are far greater than you think it is. Because if it was just about basketball, then yes, the NBA would be fine. But the NBA has built itself off the backs of storylines and fucking superstars. And unless they can cultivate that shit, this whole little parody thing ain't it, bro. I don't think it is. But maybe you think it is.
No, I'm just going to tell you that for all the business that you talked earlier, blame the NBA. Blame the fucking NBA, because what they've done with this whole apron and the way they tax it, which you got to go back to the owners, you got to go back to the NBA. It's all about money. So if you're telling me it's all about the standard and the ratings and the money, then why is it they would put stuff in the way to create more market teams to be able to do? The NBA literally created this monster, and it's now rearing its actual head. Because you can't have a team now with 3 and 4 stars. This is why we're talking about the Boston breakup. This is why we're talking about where Giannis may be able to go. This is why a team like OKC being constructed the way it is the new way you're going to have to construct a team if you want to win a championship. The question is, how many teams and how many GMs are going to be able to then put themselves in that position and do that, get the talent and build around it? And then for the NBA, they did the best they could trying to put the major market pieces together. I don't think it's an accident Luka ended up in fucking LA of all places. And then Cooper Flag ends up somehow getting the Dallas ends up getting Cooper Flag in the first pick. So to your point, maybe they saw that and said, we effed up. I don't know. But right now, where we stand today is purely by the NBA's hands based on how they set their whole business model up. So that's why I'm like, this is what you said you wanted. That's what I'm looking forward to.
No, I don't. I'm sorry. I don't agree with that. I think this was a response to LeBron James. Mr.
Really?
I'm
How
finna
so?
take my talent to South Beach because, bro, like, I get everybody, player movement, players want to be able to do their own thing. But when LeBron did it, bro, you talked about they want to do away with the Big Three era, right? When did the Big Three era become officially coined? It wasn't coined when Boston, low key, through the construction, right, of the team,
Even though they were the
those
first to
three,
do it.
right? So when you're talking about, guys who are deciding to partner up and changing the entire dynamic of teams, right? So when LeBron does it, it's another iteration is KD doing it, right? Because where's KD now? He's still trying to do it. So yes, you're right. I think the NBA responded and was like, yo, wait a minute. Number one, these players have way too much fucking power, right? We've seen that when the James Harden, how many times he's pushed himself out. I think the Luka trade was low-key a tipping of saying, hey man, listen, this motherfucker, yeah, he's great and all that, but we don't want to pay him all this goddamn money. And I think the NBA is going into a different direction anyway, because if you're talking about dollars and cents, well, I'm going to pay a guy who's going to make X amount of dollars, but not going to guarantee me certain things when it comes to the other shit that I need him to do or show up for or whatever. Why would I do that? So I think you're right. The NBA to me was responding to the player empowerment, responding to, we got to pay these guys top money. They only getting 3 years here and now. Then they want to go out and decide how they want to construct teams. Then we can't stop them from coming together. Yeah, this is a response to that. So yeah, of course, they want to be able to get younger talent under some type of cap, right, that they can afford. And I get that the NBA, but I don't blame the NBA.
But
I look at LeBron James for setting
not just that,
the tone.
though.
I personally look at LeBron James for setting the tone. Not only that, but when you talked about the attitude that old boy had in regards to, yeah, you know what, kind of downplay certain things, that's LeBron too. That's vestiges of LeBron, because the type of player that we want are the ones who gonna die on this shit, right? Like, it hurts them. But these players are following their elder statesmen and saying, well, shit, he's still making millions of dollars. Matter of fact, it's the same point that Stephen A makes all the time. Back in the day, you had to prove yourself before you got the accolades. These young niggas getting the accolades now before they have to even prove themselves. And who was the player he was talking about that was the poster child for that? He calling himself the king, walking around here. He ain't won shit yet. Who was that? Right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
But see, at the same time, if the NBA wanted more eyes and more viewership, then they wouldn't have done this, because it's not just not only did it open that, it opened a small market. And you got to think, in today's age, I get in the 90s and early 2000s when we were growing up and playing basketball, watching basketball, why the small market teams and stuff didn't matter, because social media didn't matter. It didn't exist then. See, you live in a time now where everybody can have a voice. Every place can actually be relevant now to somebody. OKC, nobody knew about OKC before.
And we still don't care, Plum, even with social media.
You may not, but here's the thing. They now have a place to have a place, is my point, which the NBA is seeing that. No, you may not care, but some people actually do care about OKC now. They didn't before, but they do now because they got no choice but to see them.
All three of those fans? All three of those.
Hey, and all five for the Pacers. I mean,
they got 1,000,008 fans now.
I mean, hey, I bet there are a lot of New Yorkers out there watching this series now to see the team that beat them, see if they can win it.
If they're going to watch, they're going to watch, bro. But you can't tell me that this is the outcome the NBA wanted, bro.
I didn't say this. This has to be either the outcome the NBA wanted, or they knew this was going to be part of what was going to happen. Because you can't cap teams and say, nah, you're not going to be allowed to just get the 2 and 3 best players and put them together and then not expect this to happen.
But the capping wasn't about that, bro. It's about labor cost. That's what it is, because everybody can agree that LeBron James is worth more than whatever they would cap, right? This is about owners who are saying, hey, we want to have some control over how much money we spend, because the salaries was getting ridiculous, right, at some point in time. And we can be honest, some of these salaries are a bit ridiculous, right? There's plenty of owners and GMs who paid way too much money to players who were not top tier players. And so when you hear about like the collective bargaining and how much the split is between them, players are getting a bigger piece of that, but the team. So that's why they constructed this, right? It was not only to help even it up a little bit because the small market teams would never really be able to compete necessarily with the larger market teams. So some like the Yankees can outspend motherfuckers, and it's like, oh, it's almost not fair. So that's part of it too, right? Parity. I do get that. But part of it though is just controlling cost to a certain extent. And it goes back to the whole point, bro. When LeBron and D Wade and Chris Bosh got together, they all were 3 max players, basically taking a small little haircut to come together, right? So now the NBA is saying, okay, look, man, at best get you 2 max, but you can't get 3 now. Right? That's a direct response to teams trying to put together these super teams. And it was like, yo, we can't sustain this business model. So to your point, you're right. I do think there's going to be an upheaval. There's going to be a transition. But I promise you, the NBA is still going to want that marquee franchise, that kind of dynastic team. They're going to want that type of player who can carry the league. And so, yes, they may go through a couple of years where they're figuring it out, but they still want that. This is not what they want. They want it on the business side because it makes sense. OKC, hoping that other teams would want to do this. But if you think about it from the NBA's perspective, the owner's going to make what the owners make, bro. The NBA going to be good.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, as far as the money side, they don't give a shit.
They don't care if a team is in the second apron or not. They're just trying to make their league healthy. But I think if you ask the NBA, they'd want Anthony Edwards winning championships, even in a market team like Minneapolis.
I mean, but that's the other thing. Like, even him, if he were to blow up, we're talking about a small market team right there with Minneapolis. Like, do you think he actually blows there, or do you think he goes somewhere else before his career actually takes off?
I mean, bro, I think they just want a guy who can carry the sport, and people will watch him because he has the type of game. It doesn't really matter.
No, I agree with you. What I'm saying is, do you think that's going to happen for him in Minnesota, or do you think by the way in the landscaping of the NBA, for us to see that from him, he's going to have to end up somewhere in a major market?
I mean, I think if it was up to the NBA, they would love for it to be in a major market, but he can still do it there and still be of value to them to a certain extent. I can see that. A little bit, but we'll see. Listen, I know it's coming to, we talked about the end of an era. Another end of the era, right, is the NBA on TNT, right? So I guess now they're officially transitioning to, I guess, ESPN. What are your thoughts in regards to the end of an era for them?
One of the best shows I've ever seen on TV as far as just authentic people talking sports, kind of like me and you. No filters, no punches, jokes, straightforwardness, but a camaraderie. One of the greatest shows that I've ever actually seen, and it's sad to see it go in its format. My only thoughts towards that would be, I hope, please hear me, ESPN, don't fuck this up. You got the keys to a Lamborghini. All you got to do is maintain it. Don't try to change it. Don't try to nothing. Just let it ride. What about you, man?
I mean, listen, it's a good show. I watch it. You know, I feel like...
See, here we go again. Non-sports watching ass.
Why? Because I disagree. It got to be non-sports watching. The shows went through many iterations throughout the 20 plus years it's been around. There were times where I watched it. It was cool. It was great. That was part of what made it cool because it wasn't necessarily trying to be overly pretentious or anything like that. It's cool. You know what I'm saying? They'll be fine at ESPN. And at the end of the day, as long as them niggas checks, clear, show up to the job and get it done. Some of this other talk that they be doing, like, because I hate, like, people gonna complain, like, Charles, this is your business, bro. This is what's going around in your business. I get it that you don't like it, but do your fucking job. So it's not going to be on just ESPN on whether or not the show survives. It also depends on how well the rest of those motherfuckers show up and do the goddamn job. It's a fucking check, man.
I mean, as long as they continue to do what there was nothing wrong with the formula. Man.
They all right.
I'm saying nobody said it was wrong. I said as long as the formula don't get fucked up.
No, I'm saying they all right. It's not like you messing with, like, sometimes it's they all right. Anyways, man, what's this shit you got about the conference football commissioners voting to go straight to seeing, what's that, straight to seeding?
Basically something that actually would have mattered to us a couple of years ago.
Okay.
Remember when Florida State had a undefeated record and we got left out the college football playoffs?
Yeah.
Yeah. That wouldn't happen if the seeding format was in place.
Okay.
We would have been in the playoffs. Now? So basically it was based on, now it's based on rankings as opposed to winning your conference championship and only those getting the bids. Now everything is going to go by however you are ranked at the end of the season. So college football committee's got a lot more power now as opposed to what even prior to what they already had, which this is going to have a lot of heavy implications when we come in the fall about those teams that make the football playoffs and who we're going to be watching them do for the national championship. So, yeah, some pretty big, heavy implications, which means more than anything else, the committee now has the sole power of really understanding who our 12 or 16 teams are going to be.
Yeah, I mean, listen, and you know how much I love my alma mater, I love Florida State, but come on, man, we gotta ask.
Hey, I'm not, whether we would or would have not, regardless, I don't care. I deserve the right to get my ass whooped straight up if it was going to happen, as long as it's my opportunity to have it to lose.
I'm just saying, listen, I can be an objective sports fan sometimes, even for the team I absolutely love, for the school that I absolutely love, and be like, I wasn't tripping too much. I wasn't. I get it. And shout out to the next year or the years follow that maybe that rule will come into play for us, but I wasn't tripping.
For any team. I just sucked it happened to us.
Yeah, I mean, the injury is what hurt for me, right? You know, once that happened, it's like, come on, man. Like, come on.
Now, granted, you do realize 3/4 of our team did not also play in that game, too.
You know, I get that, but I also realized we ain't had no chance of winning shit without our quarterback. Like, am I off? Am I off about that? I don't know. Maybe
with that defense that we had.
Oh, come on. Okay, listen. Any final thoughts?
Look, you can tell me, you can say what you want. Everybody knows that defense was legit. That's why we had 2-3 top 10, top 25 picks that came off that team.
I hear you, bro, but what did we do in the game that we actually won? What did we do in yards, despite how great the defense played? And we're talking about going into the playoffs.
Look, we didn't have our quarterback. All I'm saying is, don't tell me I had a right to have something and you take my right away. I don't give a fuck. If I earned it, I earned it. Whether or not you think I deserve to be there is a whole nother question.
But you can't say
to that point, that's why this rule now matters. Because if you really think Florida State wasn't that good, then you wouldn't have ranked them that high. They wouldn't even be ranked that high to even be a question.
Depends on what your definition of earned is. If a group of people, when they finally make judgment on you, say that you did not earn the position for whatever reason, you did not technically earn it. So maybe this rule changes a little bit and takes it less out of their hands in terms of like, hey, if a team like Florida State would have slipped to 6, 7 or whatever, cool. But guess what though? In those lower positions, it'd be expected to get the asses whooped because it's exactly what would have happened. In the case that we didn't go to the playoffs was because it's only 4 teams and we wanted to see the 4 best teams. And after the injury and after that game that we saw Florida State play without their quarterback, it was clear. Had that dude been able to play a life of football, had the offense did a little something, it might have tilted, bro. But if you watch that game, it's like, damn, there is no way. And I get it. That's all I'm saying, right? But listen, any final thoughts before we get up out of here, rehashing some shit from 2-3? It's just like sports fan to rehash some shit from 2-3 years ago.
Because we're never over it. We're never fucking over it.
That's a fact.
No, man, it was a good show. Good times today. You know, great sports talk. Just getting ready. Like I said, got a lot popping off in June. So we shall have a whole lot of talk to talk about, especially with these finals. Matter of fact, never got a beginning prediction from you for this.
Touche. What a great way to get up out of here. OKC in 5. You know what I'm saying? Be clear. Matter of fact, I would say OKC at 4 just to drive my point home even more. You know what I'm saying? I want like 3 or 4 blowouts so we could come back at some point and be like, hey, are you happy now? How's this new style I'm playing for you? I got OKC at 3.
So to continue my hot streak, I will call OKC in 7. This series actually is going to go 7 games. And I'm not saying this just because I also want to be right again and prove it to you yet again. But I honestly do think the styles will really make fights. My only question, and I'll leave it here, is, again, those other guys. Which one of those other guys are going to show up? I think you're going to get greatness from both Halliburton and from Gilgeous-Alexander. But let's see if the other guys, the Spicy Peas and the Jalen Williams, yeah, that's what we're talking about now.
I mean, let's be honest, okay? Listen, and my final thought is this, right? There's a reason why, like, you want teams to be seasoned when they get to the mountaintop, right? Because there's a certain level of expectation that they've given you that you have of them, right? So when teams make it to places it's never been before, it's hard to have any expectations. Right, yeah, Pascal Siakam, yeah, he won a championship under completely different circumstances, right? But this is a completely different team, a bunch of guys who've never been there before. So to have any real expectations is tough, to be honest, right? And that's what I'm saying, like, we like to have expectations. We like to know what to expect. That's why we like the dynasty teams. We know they're going to show up a certain type of way. So we don't know what to expect. But with that being said, I expect this to be a blowout series. I'm going
Expect
with
the unexpected.
OKC. I mean, why not, right? If you're saying how great they are, you want to compare them to the 70 winning teams or whatever, it's about to be the future dynasty. They would go a long way in cementing that in the eyes of the casual and maybe the purist by knocking this out in 5 so that next year we can prepare and talk about how great they are and hope that they can be a dynasty, right? If they can avoid injuries or contract disputes or just being in a small market team like every other fucking team
Well, the
support
contracts and all
has
that
to do
stuff,
it,
it should
right?
be good. It's to your point, injuries.
I mean, yeah, but every team, bro, at some point in time, to your point, right, they gonna have everybody gonna want to get paid because not everybody stays role players over a period of time. So, anywho's, listen, with that being said, don't forget, y'all, to like, subscribe, follow, and all that good stuff. Talking some sports shit for real, on behalf of my guy, Jason DJ Plummer in the building. I'm your boy, Nick Nice. We'll see y'all next time. We got a couple of weeks, man, to get this NBA talk in. Hopefully this goes at least 5 or 6, so we have a couple more weeks. With that being said, we'll see y'all next time. Be easy. Peace.
Deuces.